Hello, this is Matt from Ace Appliance in Toledo, Ohio. Welcome back to another in-home diagnostic video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Alright, well, what we have here, this is a Cabrio. It's a Whirlpool VMW washer, which stands for vertical mount. It's going to be a belt-driven washer. So it's a little bit different design than some of the Cabrios. Some of the Cabrios will have a stator underneath. This is kind of Whirlpool's newer design. And what we're having is when the customer powers up the cycle and hits the start button, you hear the cold water kind of come in. These will sense at first, kind of pulse the drum to sense the weight of the load, and that's how they're going to determine their fill level. So the lid will always lock, unlock, then lock again on this unit. Just basically checks operation of the lid lock before it starts its cycle. And what we get is it begins to fill with cold water and then cuts off. And you can feel when you put your hand on the back of the valve, the hot water coming in. The valve is humming, but you don't actually hear the water coming into the unit. So we are not getting any hot water from the hot side of the shutoff valve into the unit. And what we are going to do, there's a set of flood safe hoses on here, which sometimes the flood safe hose, it's got a little check valve in there that will fail. So what we're going to do is put a new hose on and run it right into the tub to see water pressure from the valve. Okay, well, basically the only tool that we used for the repair was just the channel locks. Okay, well, what we're going to do, the hot valve is on the left here. So we're going to go ahead and shut the valve off. Go ahead and loosen up the hose. Kind of keep it upright and drain some of the water out into the tub. And then we're going to get to the back of the washer and actually take the other side of the line off. Usually these are just finger tight. See, there is a lot of calcium and sediment that's in that valve there. We're just going to put a standard braided hose on that does not have a check valve built into it. This is not a flood safe hose, because with a flood safe hose you can't actually check water pressure through the hose. When you would go to turn it on, it would think that there's a leak and shut itself off. Well, this particular hose here has the rubber gasket that's built into the hose. Some of them do not have the gaskets built into the hose. Sometimes they fall out. So you always want to check. You want to have a rubber gasket on both sides of the hose before they're installed, or else they are going to leak. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take the other end of the hose and hook it up to the hot side of the washer here. And that side can just be hand tight again because it is plastic threads on the valve. You don't want to over tighten it. But on the actual shut-off valve side, you can use a pair of pliers and crank it down pretty good. Okay, now we'll go ahead and open the valve back up. Alright, we're going to just go ahead and power it up and run another test cycle. We'll set it to normal. And power it up. They do take a little while to get going, but we'll let it go through its steps here and see if we get hot water coming through. And then we're just going to kind of check with a flashlight, just kind of inspect the new water line, make sure you don't have any leaks. good on both sides. And it is still sensing at this point. Right now it's filling with cold and warm water, or cold and hot water. Now it just kicked over to mainly the hot valve, and the water, you can hear it coming in a lot stronger than what it was before. Before, the valve was just getting energized and you weren't hearing any water entering the machine. So it was an issue with the flood safe valve. The shut-off valve on the back of the washer is going to be okay. And again, now the cold water is actually coming in slower than the hot, so what we're going to want to do is replace the cold water line also, because the cold water is just kind of a trickle. Before we hook the new line back up, because there was a lot of free-floating sediment, just turn it on, sort of run it for a couple minutes, get a good idea of what your water pressure is coming through there, and it also kind of just lets all that free-floating sediment that might be in the valve from turning it off and on, let that kind of flow through the lines so you're not getting it into your valve on the back of the washer. Okay, what we're going to do, we got the cold water hose changed out also. Check the pressure on it. We're going to go ahead and start up a normal cycle. Actually, since we already ran some water into the tub, we're going to first put it through a drain and spin to evacuate all the water that we just added into the tub out. That way we can start over fresh. Okay, and as you kind of hear it, you can kind of tell when the pump is emptied it out. So we'll go ahead and power it down. Go back, start it up on a normal wash. Make sure our valves are both open. Now, since we just replaced the cold water line, I'm going to kind of check the cold line as it's filling. Make sure we don't have any leaks there. Okay, well, it's now gone through the whole weight sensing phase and began to fill. We got good water pressure coming in on both sides. And you can definitely tell that the unit's going to be filling with the proper amount of water at this point in time. Again, just going to want to check one more time, make sure we don't have any leaks. And it should take about 3 to 5 minutes or so for this to fill. And then it should start its wash action. Because basically before, what was happening is this was just timing out on the fill cycle and wouldn't even start a wash cycle or do anything. Okay, well, now the unit has filled. It did take approximately 3 to 5 minutes, and we're hearing agitation now, which we weren't hearing before. So that's going to complete our repair. Thank you for watching another quality video from ApplianceVideo.com.